Thank you for tuning in to the MUA Standard, and today we are going to do a full glam glitter cut crease. I always gel the brow hairs upward before applying any product to the brows because if the hairs do not stick up, it will look very bulky and you'll be able to tell where the product and the hairline stops. So that is a little tip that you always want to keep in mind, and you always want to use very light strokes when you are mimicking hairs with the product. And in this case, I used eyeshadow because I couldn't find my eyebrow pencil. It's just a personal thing that I like to do whenever I run out of a pencil or I don't have it at all. And this part, you already know, this is the e.l.f. Cosmetics 18-hour camo concealer. This is in the shade Deep Cinnamon. I am using this to carve under her brows and set the foundation for her eyeshadow. You always want to make sure you use a flat brush. The flatter the brush, the better. I heard that paintbrushes go well, so that's why I use this makeup brush. It looks similar to a paintbrush, but that straight end will help you keep your brows going in a straight line, if that makes sense. And I always start just below where I want my brow line to end or start at because of the simple fact that this is so much product. You want the very minimum amount of product where you want to line up your brows. And then you want to use a buffing brush to blend out the edges of the concealer, not all of the concealer. Remember, concealer is going to stay where you put it. So you might want to make sure that you are placing it in the place that you would like it to be. Once that is seamless and finished, we place the light brown eyeshadow in the background just to blend it out into the concealer. And now we are starting the cut crease. I always usually start my cut crease by putting a dot in the very center just to see exactly where I want to shape it out at, and I connect the dots from the beginning to the end. You also want to make sure that when you are doing a cut crease and you are using concealer to cut the crease, you want to use as little amount of product as possible. If you find that you put too much product on the brush, start in the middle of the eye and work your way towards the line of the cut crease that you wanted it to go. So right here, I'm literally using the very tip of the brush to carve out the line of the cut crease because I want it to be as sharp as humanly possible. And the shade that I'm using to carve out this cut crease is, I believe, Warm Sun or Deep Tan. It is a very bright concealer that is from the e.l.f. Cosmetics collection. You can use really any concealer or any base. I've used P. Louise base before. I've used Maybelline before. So any bright color concealer is the best because you want it to have the true color pigment to shine through. And I also set that concealer in with a eyeshadow shade that is similar to the shade of the concealer. And this shade was used from the Morphe 3503 palette. And as you can see, it makes the white goes on so smoothly. Oh my goodness. I'm now going in my white silver pigment from my own makeup. It's in the Rainbow Stacker. I've had this for a couple of years now. I hardly use it. But when I do use it, I'm in love with it every time. And this glue is an Amazon glue. It needs to be the cheapest glue possible. It doesn't matter because glitter is going on top of it. And I like using lash glue for this type of glitter because it just seems to hold the glitter in place better. I always go in with a fine glitter first. Always, because it sets the foundation of the chunky glitter and it makes it look very seamlessly. I've tried looks where I just use the chunky glitter by itself without the fine glitter, but it just doesn't give it that pop and shimmer like I like, and it just becomes too much too many sequins on the eyelid, which can get heavy. I like to use a lot of looks like that, so I would know. So again, I just slightly pack and drag this pigment over the lid into the cut crease. And the reason why you really don't need much product from the Mayo makeup. Like neon pigments, I love them because you really don't need much product and they go exactly where you put them, which is why you have to make sure that you know what you're doing because it's going to go exactly where you put it. So if you mess up and put it somewhere else, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to correct that. Another tip that I would love to mention is before you put anything else on the eye, you want to make sure that concealer has no creases in it. And if you are finding that the concealer creases before you start the eye, just lightly pat it out with a clean brush. You could use your finger, just like I did earlier. And also, this was a complete freestyle. Can you guys believe that? Like, I literally was just like, hey, I want to do makeup today. So I'm booked, and here we are. I wish more clients would come to me with creative looks in mind, because I genuinely love doing them. Like, the soft glam looks are fine and dandy, but y'all, nothing beats a cut crease to me. I'm sorry. Like, when you're paying good money to get your makeup done, why not go all out? And a little fun fact about this eyeliner, I accidentally got it as I was rushing to Target one day to replace my old eyeliner, and it was blue. And I was so scared when I saw it pop up on a client's face, like really blue. So what I had to do was put eyeshadow, black eyeshadow, over the blue eyeliner, and it turned into a very pretty matte eyeshadow, eyeliner. And I like it. So now I use it on purpose to make the eyeliner black, and it's just to have that lash band being concealed when you put on lashes. So it's really good. I like to use foundation to carve out the top of the brows, simply because it gives that more natural look to make it seem like those are their brows. And for the primer, I use the e.l.f. Cosmetics Poreless Primer. This primer is a really good drugstore primer, along with their Power Grip primer that I can never get my hands on because it's always sold out. So this is a good alternative to that one. Again, everything I used will be linked below, because I really want you guys to be able to one day recreate this look. And if you do, please tag me. The MUA Standard or Exclusive Beauty, both pages are mine. And guys, before, I used to struggle so much with trying to make my foundation look more full coverage. If you put the foundation on the face first with like a painting brush like I just did, and then go in with a light contour brush instead of a foundation brush, because it's less dense, oh my god, it makes the foundation melt like butter. Look at this foundation. If I were you, I wouldn't even believe that this foundation is only $5 at Walmart. Like, that's crazy, right? Well, it's probably $6.89 now. But I mean, it's a must-have in my kit, so I don't even look at the price anymore. I just grab it. But this e.l.f. concealer is still the Deep Cinnamon. I'm going under the eyes, not brows with this. I did go under the brows, but I'm going under the eyes right now. And I like to apply it vigorously to this part of the cheek instead of directly under the eye, because I find that if you put too much concealer under the eye, that's what causes creasing and bags, and it doesn't look right. Again, you don't want to use the same brush that you use to put the concealer on the face as the brush that you use to blend it. Because that's how you get a big mess, and it won't blend as seamlessly. So use a paintbrush or a concealer brush, a flat concealer brush, to put the concealer on the face in the places that you will want it to be. Because again, you don't want to move concealer around the face like foundation. You want to have it sit in place. And then once you do that, you could go back in with a blending concealer brush to lightly blend out the edges first. That is really important. Blend out the edges first, because then you won't be able to tell where the foundation or the contour start and stop at. You see how it's seamlessly blending into her foundation as if it was a part of the shade, even though me and you both know it wasn't. I always like to go above the mouth with a lot of foundation, not a lot of concealer, but a good bit of concealer, simply because we have dark spots there. That's a dark area because the nose protects it from the sun. So that area gets a little bit shadowed. And you also want to make sure that when you are blending this concealer out, try to blend up towards the back of the eye, the lower lid, last. I love doing that last because I'm able to really get up in there with even sometimes a smaller concealer brush, because I want it to be very, very, very precise before I put that powder down. Once you put that setting powder down, it's going to set in place like the name, and it will be hard to correct it after. And I love this brush to blend out concealer. It's so lightweight. Again, I'm going back under the brow very last with a very, very minimal amount of concealer. I actually believe I didn't even put anything extra on the brush. I just used the residue from when I first put it in her T-zone areas to put that concealer there. And then I'm going to very, very, very lightly blend that out with this brush. You want to let the brush work for you. There's a time and a place in makeup to be heavy-handed. Honestly, the only time you really need to be heavy-handed is when you're blending out the very end of the contour, like right here. Then you could go a little bit more heavy. But for the most part, the brush will work for you if you will allow it. So hold it lightly. Let the brush glide seamlessly on the face. You will thank yourself later. I actually cannot remember the name of this concealer that I put on her face, but I'm honestly not a big fan of it. I always have to go back over it with something else. So I will link it below so you guys would know exactly what it is. But yeah, I'm not really too much of a fan. I did go in the under eye area with the Nutmeg Fenty Beauty setting powder. I love this setting powder. I know some people hate it, but honestly, I love it. I don't see how people don't love it. It makes the concealer go so smooth. Like, look how good it's smoothing the concealer out. Like, I'm still in shock. And I've been using this for months. And y'all, these sponges from Amazon are a godsend. The shape of it helps you get in those small areas that are hard to get into. And the big part of it, it just allows you to have a seamless input on the face when you apply the powder. I like beauty sponges, but they honestly do not get clean enough for me. That's why I like to use brushes and disposable items on the client's face because, again, you don't want to just keep putting the same thing on a client's face that you put on another client's face just because you clean it. You already do that with your brushes, so why do it with a sponge that can hold a lot of liquid on the inside of it? Like, you don't know how clean it is on the inside until you cut it open, and by the time you cut it open, you have to dispose of it. So you want to get those type of puffy, I forgot what they're called, but again, they're going to be linked below in my storefront. Getting those is really simple. It's $7 for like 12 of those, and that's the price of a good beauty blender. So one good beauty blender. So it's really important to get that. Also, I am using the Black Radiance medium to dark contour palette to contour her nose. I am honestly so proud of how good I contoured her nose. Normally, I really struggle with that. If you look at my previous videos, you will be able to tell. But I've really been trying to master the art of nose contour. And honestly, it's really easy once you master it. I'm using the darkest shade on the sides. I also don't blend out my concealer all the way when I am going on top of the nose. I just pat it in a little bit and blend out the edges of that concealer with the contour shade. This is also a very important step. I don't like to use a bunch of setting powder in this area because I don't want to risk turning my client a different shade than what they are. So I do it very lightly. You really don't need much to make that cheekbone pop out a lot. But you definitely want to put a good bit of setting powder in the smile lines to keep that from creasing as well. This brush from Real Techniques is so underrated. This brush helps you get all of the excess powder off the face. You don't want it to look cakey, and it just leaves the residue that you need, not the unwanted residue that you don't need. This is the fun part. Oh my gosh, I love blush on black women. Y'all, look how pretty this looks. So I'm using the blush palette to put the light pink shade on her face. But I also went back in with a very, very pretty pink eyeshadow. I love using eyeshadow for other reasons, y'all. I just can't get enough of it. Want to be very, very, very careful when you're trying to use it as a blush because you can put too much. So you want to barely, and I do mean barely, put your blush brush in the eyeshadow and then lightly, very lightly go across the cheeks. You want to center your focus towards the back of the cheeks versus the front, because again, it's a heavyweight product. And now I'm going in with a light purple burgundy-ish shade that is from the 3503 palette. Under the eye, you never want to not have eyeshadow on the lower lid. Like, it completes the look more than you know. It really does. So you want to make sure whatever shade you use, it really doesn't matter. Just put it under there. It's kind of similar to how back in the 90s, a lot of women used to put black eyeliner in their waterline, which I could have put black eyeliner to make a pop. I really should have, now that I'm looking at it more closely. But at the very minimum, please put eyeshadow on your lower lid. And the lip gloss that I am using, I got it from Target. I am going to put that in the comments, well, in the description below. So be sure to check there. Like, I'm going to put everything that I just butchered. Every name that I butchered, I'm putting it in the comments. Well, in the description, once again. But overall, this look was a 10 out of 10 in my book. Like, as far as my expertise, and I'm judging myself from myself, this look was a 10 out of 10. I did everything right, in my opinion. I mean, there's little tweaks that I could have done, but overall, this was one of my best looks. And I honestly felt very relaxed when I was doing her face. I had a house full of people when I did her face, and I was still relaxed, and that lets me know that I'm starting to get back comfortable into my craft. I've been away for a while because I had a baby, and I know you guys heard her in the background in a few of these voiceovers, but overall, you guys, I am so happy that I'm able to get back into my field, back into my passion, teaching you guys my ways, and just having fun with it overall. Like, I'm really, 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 really happy to be back, and I hope you guys enjoy having me back. Please don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms at Clusive Beauty and the MUA Standard, and see you in the next video.